For the longest time, people have wanted Pokemon Pocket to become an official esport, something that you would see alongside the other big Pokemon titles at events like Worlds, EUIC, the European International Championships, NAIC, the NA International Championships, and LAIC, the Latin America International Championships. And unfortunately, for the longest time, we have not gotten any solid word as to whether or not that is happening. However, very recently, an interview with Chris Brown, no, not that Chris Brown, but the Chris Brown that runs the Pokemon Global Esports division, talked about Pocket and gave us the news that unfortunately we had been expecting for quite some time, at least something that I had been expecting, that Pocket would not become part of their official competitive circuit, even though, from my humble perspective, I think it would be a great addition to what they're already doing at a lot of these events. Let's get into it. Hi everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yee to the haw. This is from InsiderGaming.com, and it is that Pokemon has no plans for TCG Pocket to become a major competitive game. While, again, this is something that we kind of expected, and given the fact that none of it has rolled out to, the competitive circuit, this is disappointing for sure. I think Pocket has a lot of opportunity to become a great competitive game, and if the grassroots tournaments are any indicator, as well as just how competitive the game is on its ranked ladder, I think it would be awesome, especially you could do a multi-deck format. You could even do a single-deck format, do a one-day tournament, but let's start getting into this here. There are no immediate plans for Pocket to emerge as the next big genre in the competitive scene, Pokemon's director of global esports and events, Chris Brown, revealed. And when they say no immediate plans, I do think at this point, if they were considering it, it would be something they would implement. And the reason I say that is because Pokemon Unite, another game that I've played for a long time and have covered since the start of it, was immediately thrust into their championship circuit, like right away. The game launched, I want to say, it kind of like had two launches. It had a almost soft launch only on Switch in July or something like that. And then it had its broader global mobile launch in September. So after that, it was immediately into having a championship circuit called the Unite Championship Series that coincided with big international and world championship events through Pokemon in just a couple of months. So Unite went from not existing to having its own championship circuit with a lot of money behind it, like millions in cash prizing, flying people out to events to compete live at Worlds, multi-regional, flying out like 11 different regions to compete at the first Worlds event it was at. It had that planned and ready to go and implemented within a few months of the game releasing. And Pocket, unfortunately, has not had any of that. So I've expected for a long time that this is the case, and now they are confirming it. Pokemon Pocket has exploded in popularity since it was released in October 2024. Obviously, yeah, true. And while the game offers a competitive approach with battles against other players across the world, there are currently no plans to provide an official esports scene for the title. It will remain a side event at competitive tournaments. And I have been to some of the international events that have Pocket side events. They're really cool. The one I was at recently, like the winner of it got the equivalent of like $1,000 in Pokemon packs for winning, which is not nothing. It's cool that they have a side event like that, but it's definitely not on stage with the trophies, cheering in front of an audience, up on the big screens. They have not done that for Pocket, and it looks like they're not going to. Speaking to Insider Gaming and other media outlets at Pokemon EUIC, which just happened in London like a few days ago as I'm recording this, Brown said the current approach for TCG Pocket feels great currently, and while there are discussions to improve the overall experience for Pocket players, this doesn't include adding the game to the competitive schedule. I think there are probably a lot of reasons for this. One of them could be the amount of money that is made on this game and where that money is divvied up. I think probably one of the biggest reasons for this being the paper TCG scene. I think that is so incredibly popular and fuels so many big things at Pokemon. It's like one of the number one things. When you think of a company printing money, I don't know if anything comes like almost as literally close as printing Pokemon cards. And they're probably concerned that it would eat into that avenue somehow. I personally, by the way, fully disagree with that. I actually think Pocket has probably done nothing but made paper TCG more popular, and I don't think people would stop competing or buying TCG to play Pocket. But I would wager that is one of the big considerations that they're trying to make with all of this. We are talking through things like how we can encourage trading. We want to support the Pocket community at the shows, which is cool. There was something we did a while back, and I don't know if it ever got released, where we actually got to show the matches from one of the side events. I think it was the side event at Worlds, I want to say, in Anaheim. So we actually have the recordings of those games, and me and another caster, this guy Chip, who casts for Pokemon TCG, we actually got to sit down and go over the kind of championship games with the multi-decks. I want to say at the time it was like a Stoke Charizard and a Darkrai versus an Arceus and something. I can't remember. It was something like that. So that was what they played at that event. And I don't know if they ever ended up releasing that. I would love it if they took kind of that footage from a side event and put it out as part of the main show. I think that would be really cool. But there are no plans for it to be a main title. Pokemon currently has 4 genres available to competitive players. The main TCG, Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite, and VGC, the main video game. The latter of which is currently played on Pokemon Scarlet Violet, but will be moved to the upcoming Pokemon Champions for Worlds in San Francisco. I bet they're trying to move it even earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a kind of soft test for this. It wouldn't be a soft test. It would be kind of a huge test for Pokemon Champions at NAIC in New Orleans later this year before Worlds in San Francisco, but we'll see how that goes. No release date has been revealed for Champions, but a slew of Pokemon news is expected next week to mark the franchise's 30th anniversary. And yes, of course, we are coming up on Pokemon Day on the 27th. We will get a new Pocket set announced very soon. They dropped the teaser actually earlier today, and they're showing Gen 9, but we'll probably hear more about what's going on with Pocket and a special Pokemon Day event, as well as Champions news, the Ditto game that Pokopia, you'll see Unite information, you'll see VGC, we might even see a teaser for Gen 10. I wouldn't be shocked if they show, you know, kind of like we did with the Scarlet Violet. If they showed that and then kind of hinted towards later this year release date, that would be pretty hype, because that would mean at Worlds we're going to get even more information about it. But who knows when Gen 10 is exactly happening. Champions should be happening, honestly, pretty soon. I would not be surprised if we see a ton of information about it on Pokemon Day and a ton of information moving forward. But this video's purpose was not only about what cool stuff's happening on Pokemon Day, it is about Pokemon Pocket and the fact that we are not going to be seeing a competitive circuit for it. I know for some people that's pretty dang disappointing. I personally am also disappointed by it, because I think it would be quite cool. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, guys. Of course, I'll be covering the new set, and I'm back from EUIC, so Pocket streams will resume. Love you. We did it. We did it. They didn't do it, though. We did it.